All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of Locked On Avalanche. On today's episode, Nathan MacKinnon gets the second star of the week in the NHL. But if you look at the 3 stars, it's kind of interesting and odd what the NHL did. We'll look at that. And we're also going to, because we have some time here, the Avalanche have 2 games in the last 2 weeks. We'll revisit the Central, how things stand, what has surprised us so far. A new episode of Locked On Avalanche coming at you right now.
You're Locked On Avalanche, your daily podcast on the Colorado Avalanche. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Team every day. Thank you for tuning in and making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. He is Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan. I am Chris Maselli. You can follow us on our social media outlets, LOPN_Avalanche on Twitter, Locked On Avalanche on Instagram. Questions, comments, concerns, opinions, lockedonavalanche@gmail.com, and follow us over on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Get notified when a new show goes live. Before we get into anything, man, just one more final comment on Peter McNabb, because you just saw the outpouring. It made you feel good, man. Like it's almost like you hate going to, like, wakes and funerals. It's like, I don't want to go, but you go, and then you feel better when you do go. Yeah. And if you're a part of it, because my father passed away not that long ago, so like after you see all the people that show up, it makes you feel better. And reading so many just comments and tweets and posts, and they were all the same thing, all just, what a human being, what a man. Remove the hockey part of it. Yeah, just a true, like, human being. It was sad when you heard about it, and then yesterday was like, it did make you feel a little bit better. If you're on social media, or even the local news in Denver was just talking, had really good segments that you can go look up on YouTube if you want. It's part of the the healing process when someone passes away. It did make you feel good yesterday,
and especially like seeing former players like Tyson Barrie, Matt Duchene,
yeah.
Making long posts about it, and there's a lot of time removed for Barrie and Duchene, and for him to matter that much, even with all that time removed, and with Duchene a million teams in between. It speaks a lot to the man's character and the interaction he had with the team and the players, and just the kind of person he was. So to see all of that outpouring for such an incredible guy was incredible.
It's great. It was really good. So one thing he would have loved to have seen was Nathan MacKinnon getting a second star of the week in the NHL. Very well deserved, obviously. The interesting thing to me is, so did you see who the other 2 were?
I know. I think number 3 was Robo from Dallas. Am I right?
No, he was actually number 1.
Oh, number 1.
He was the first star of the week. So Robertson had 4 goals, 4 assists in 3 games. He's the first star. Nathan MacKinnon didn't score a goal, 7 assists in 2 games. And then Erik Karlsson had the exact same stats as Jason Robertson, but he's the third star. Go figure. Like, how does that work? How do you decide, okay, we have 2 guys here that have 4 goals, 4 assists in the same amount of games played. One of them is going to be the first star, and the other is going to be the third star. I don't get how you do this, and then you slide Nathan MacKinnon in between the 2 of them. Go figure. It's the NHL just doing the NHL, I guess.
Is anybody in control of the NHL when it comes to scheduling and stars?
I don't get it.
Is it controlled by AI?
I mean, you would almost think, like, okay, those 2 guys would be 1 and 2, and Nathan MacKinnon would be 3, or throw Nathan MacKinnon at number 1 because his 7 assists were in 1 less game, and have Robertson and Karlsson be 2 and 3. But just the fact that Robertson and Karlsson have the same exact stats, and they're not consecutive. I mean, flip a coin on who you would make number 1 or number 2. But I just got a kick out of that. I just saw that, and I'm like, can the NHL do nothing right?
The answer is no.
No, I don't know, man. Maybe just like my dark sense of humor when I saw that was just, this is just bizarre to me, but
It's this league, man.
it's the league, yeah. But I mean, Nathan MacKinnon, well deserved, obviously 7 assists in 2 games, in those 2 games over in Finland. So, yeah, I mean, I think, I wonder how many times we're going to see this. You're gonna get Nathan MacKinnon up there. You're gonna get Cale Makar. You think? Remember a few years ago when Frankie had to fill in for Grubauer, and he was on the top, the 3 stars 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah,
I think he was number 1 the first week, and then number 2. I know it wasn't number 1 back to back. He was either number 2 or number 3 the week after. And I'm just thinking, is that anybody that you think on the team could maybe like have just like this surprise week outside of the norm, outside of the, Cale Makars, Mikko Rantanens, Nathan MacKinnons, anybody that could like kind of sneak in there and grab a star
on this current team, like if Nuke was healthy, it's prime for him, especially with the production he had up until the point of his injury.
Yeah,
like it would have been like Nuke would have really creeped up there. If Lecky can finally string this together and get hot again, I easily could see him also creeping up
definitely.
there. But Nathan MacKinnon, Cale Makar is almost like your easy just fill in. If you can't figure out what to do, just put one of those guys in there. Nobody's going to complain.
And you know what, man? I'm going to put myself on a limb out there right now. I think Alex Newhook sneaks in there at least one time this year. I think he can put together a week where he's just feeling it and vibing. And I just feel like he's going to sneak in there. So put me on record, right now, that at some point during this season, Alex Newhook gets a star from the NHL. It's going to happen.
You know what? I respect that. I respect that. I'm sitting here like the wheels are turning on if I'm going to jump on board on that. I have to see one more game. I want to see one more game from Newhook before I can have that kind of confidence.
All right. You can jump on later. There's always room.
Get back to me. Circle the train back around.
Yeah,
I'll be
we're
here.
Good. Polar Express is not left yet. We're good.
Punching tickets.
Yeah. So as far as stats go in the league, we kind of wanted to look at these and look at the big stats and where some Avalanche players stand in comparison to the top of the league. I don't know about you, man. I'm just getting tired of seeing Edmonton Oilers, namely, obviously Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl at the top of these stands every single year. I mean, it just shows how good they are, obviously, but it's almost like you're loading up stats and okay, who's at number 3? Because it's always Draisaitl and McDavid at 1 and 2. As far as points go, McDavid at number 1 with 25, Draisaitl at number 2 with 23, and Nathan MacKinnon, he's number 5 right now. He's actually tied for number 5. Him and Erik Karlsson both have 19. So with MacKinnon, he has the least amount of goals. So he's only got 3 goals in the season with those 16 assists, kind of similar to what he was doing last year.
Yeah.
And he is, I don't want to say quietly because he's been having an excellent start to the season. He's right at top 5 right now in points. I mean, you would have to assume he can continue that throughout the season. That's really not really going on a limb for that one. But do you think he can catch maybe top 3? Is that doable for him?
I do. I don't know if Erik Karlsson could sustain what he's doing.
I think a lot of people have. Yeah. I mean, he's got to an amazing start,
and I wonder how long the wheels stay on Nikita Kucherov. But we've been saying this for like 4 years now, so I'll be right eventually. And you kind of think that Nathan MacKinnon's goal production and like how it's kind of tailed off is, I wonder if it has something to do with the absence of Landeskog, and he's taken on that role of like leader, and he's the mental leader and like a facilitator. That's why he's got the assists like he does. He's not going out there to win the game because he doesn't have the captain out there. It's insert meme here. I'm the captain now.
Right.
Like he's facilitating. He's making the team better. And I wonder once we get closer to Landy's return, or it gets to a point where he really knows how the lines are going to work if he starts coming back to that, I'll take this shot because I believe in what everybody else is doing.
Right. He's actually also tied with David Pastrnak, who's got 19 points as well. So those three guys. So really, he's in fourth place between Pastrnak, MacKinnon, and Karlsson. Between those guys, he's the best in plus minus. He's a +8. He does lead all those guys in penalty minutes by a good margin. Getting an extra 2 for mouthing off to the ref will do that. But the one thing, and I didn't see this till right now, man, his shooting percentage, Nathan MacKinnon's shooting percentage is only 5.5%.
Trade him.
That contract is looking bad right now.
5% shot percentage.
Yeah.
Get out.
I mean, you're gonna expect that to go up, but when he only got 3 goals, that is by far the lowest. You look at like someone like Connor McDavid, 25.5 shooting percentage. You just shake your head when you look at his stats. It's ridiculous. They should just be blacked out. Like, I don't want to see them the rest of the year. Just
redacted.
You got Mikko Rantanen on here too, and he's listed at number 15, but obviously there's a lot of guys. So let's see. That's 4, 5, 6. So he's 7th. He's 7th right now with 16 points. So he's a little bit more evened out than Nathan MacKinnon. He's got 7 goals and 9 assists. And his shooting percentage is at 19.5. So Mikko, I think this is one of the best starts to a season that he's ever had.
And you asked, do you think Nathan MacKinnon can close the gap on some of those in front of him? And I mentioned those that would fall off. I see Mikko closing this gap between him and Nathan MacKinnon really quickly. Especially once we get back to not traveling across the entire planet and getting back to a regular NHL season. Like, if you see the names on there, it's like Troy Terry is in between Nathan MacKinnon. Like, you don't see that like sticking around because it's not a lot of great things going on in Anaheim, but like Matt Chuck in Florida.
Well, you know who's like the golden boy right now, and we were talking about when we did the crossover with Trey is Jesper Bratt. Everybody's like, they want to be part of the Bratt pack right now, and I get it. Like, he's having a great start, but McKinnon's got better stats than him. Mikko Rantanen has just as good as stats as him. So it's like, I get it. People latch on to people. That's all, and he's deserving of all that. But they're right there with them. And you look at, the Avs have only played 11 games. So if you go back to MacKinnon, and he's, like I said, he's tied with Pastrnak and Karlsson. Karlsson has played 3 more games than MacKinnon, and Pastrnak has played 1 more game. So he's got a game in hand on both those guys. And you have to assume he's going to get a point or 2 in this next game, but that's neither here nor there. It's just saying, like, they're keeping up with everybody. They played a game or 2 less. Yeah, like those 2 guys specifically, as far as forwards go, you needed those, especially knowing that Landeskog was going to be out for an extended amount of time. You could not afford to have those guys get off to a rough start, especially with how the depth has gotten off to a really rough start. But they didn't. They're like, no, we have to step it up. They clearly have. So.
And I feel like the production for both is going to, if they could continue the momentum they got in Finland, if they could come back and continue that, where they don't have to be the sole source for offensive production, and they could rest a little bit, and they're not being run 25, 27 minutes a night, I feel like their production is going to go up, and they could be a little bit more selective on what they do, because it's not all through them. And I feel like their production, like, you'll see it in the Nashville game. I expect at least maybe both of them to walk away with at least 1 point.
Oh, easily. Yeah. Well, I don't want to say easily. It's not easy, but the way that they're playing, you would have to assume that. Yeah. And quickly look over on the defensive side, and Cale Makar, maybe some people are unfairly like kind of honing in. It's taking him a long time to score a goal. Okay. Well, that doesn't mean he's not being productive. Overall for defensemen, he's 3rd right now with 13 points. 12 of those are assists. Sure. And again, Karlsson right now is with those 19 points. He's leading with Rasmus Dahlin, 2nd with 15 points. So, if you want to go off assists, McCarr's leading the league in assists for defensemen, and the goals will start coming for him. He's just too talented to not start getting pucks in the net, and yeah, he's right there too. Not surprising at all.
I mean, it's a marathon. Let him
Right.
take his time. Let him get going. Let him get
Yeah.
comfortable. We don't have to expect a lot out of Cale Makar night in, night out. So let him take his time.
And for what it's worth, my boy Shane Gostisbehere, he's in 10th right now. Well, more than that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th. He's in 6th with 10 points. A -9 on the season. So I mean, when you play on that team, gonna happen. So
yeah.
I wanted to bring up goalies here too, because Georgiev, he is a top 5 goalie right now in the league, and that's over. Let's see. Where's his save percentage? 925 right now for his save percentage. That is better than Igor Shesterkin. That is better than, let's see. Let me load. I want to organize this. Where did he go?
Better than Martin Jones.
Yeah, that's your boy, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So no, like we've talked about him quite a bit, and he's everything that's been cracked up to be so far for the Avalanche. So I think he's another guy. We're talking about stars of the week. You're going to see him getting some too.
Oh yeah,
easily. Yep.
Like, and for the Avalanche to have a top 5 goalie and save percentage, wow, what a treat! That's just one more little tool in the weaponry. Like, it's nice to have that to rely on too, especially going into really the meat of the season. Like it's really good.
Yeah, better than Shesterkin, better than Vasilevsky in terms of save percentage, better than Darcy Kemper. So
I was about to say,
there you go. So it's we'll keep an eye on stats because that's what makes or breaks a team and makes or breaks a player. But we'll keep an eye on those as the season goes along for sure. So all right, we also want to keep an eye on the division right now. Kind of craziness going on in the Central. So where our team's standing, or any like surprises for any of these teams that Kyle and I think are our surprises, and does it stay this way, or are teams that have come out of nowhere, are they just playing with house money right now, and will the division kind of eventually even out? We'll talk about the Central right after we hear from betonline.net. It is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer to esports, and of course, our beloved NHL. We've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those as well at BetOnline. We are always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. That's betonline.net. That is where the game starts. All right. The Central, we kind of did our preseason predictions on where things would stand. And most teams, let's see, St. Louis, eventually they'll catch up to the rest of the league, but they're at 9 games right now. Everybody else has played 11 or 12. And Dallas is still holding strong at number 1 with 8-3-1. Winnipeg at number 2, 7-3-1. Colorado right now is in 3rd. Chicago at 4, 5-5-2. Minnesota, they got off to that rough start. They seem to have turned the tide a little bit. They're 5-5-1. And Nashville, they got off to a rough start as well. They seem to be maybe turning the tide as well. 5-6-1. Arizona at 7, 4-6-1. And then St. Louis just cannot get things going. They are 3-6-0. Overall thoughts on the division, where things stand right now?
Absolutely surprised at the start that Dallas has. And if you ask anyone around Dallas, I think they're equally as surprised. This is not something they anticipated. This is a shock to everyone. How long it holds up, who knows? You take a Sharpie to the schedule, those games in November, very, very important.
Yeah, when we did the crossover with Dane from Locked On Stars, he was very honest. He was like, I'm not completely sold.
Yeah.
I think they have, they have good players, and I think they can be in the mix. But he wasn't throwing out there, oh, they're going to get off to a hot start. They're going to be, staking claim to the number one spot in the division after the first month. Like, he wasn't saying anything like that. So I think there's a little bit of a surprise there. They've gotten off to a good, especially have a new coach.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes a little while to get going. But no, they're firing on all cylinders right now. What do they got? 40 and they're this is where I think that they made the good change on the bench with their head coach, because they were kind of just like the Islanders. They were like the Islanders of the West, just a very not like slow. And it was a really slow team, a slower team, and just methodical. And they'll grind you down. It's more defense than offense, and that's not the case right now. They got 46 goals. That's tops in the division.
And
So,
apparently that coaching mindset's good enough to get Winnipeg into the second in the Central, because that's where he went.
That's where he went, was Winnipeg.
So,
But look what Winnipeg's got, 33 goals. So he
yeah.
brought his style of play to Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Winnipeg is right there too. And you got those two teams, 1-2. Dallas was that team that I thought was a fringe team. And again, by the end of the year, very well could be. We don't know how this is all going to play out. But I thought they could be on that verge of maybe getting a wild card spot. Not Winnipeg. I don't think anybody really thought Winnipeg was going to be up at the top of the stands at any point in the season. But I will say, man, that game that they played against the Avalanche, I know it's only one game.
Mm-hmm.
They have some talent on that team.
And they look different. They look different. Yep.
And they have good defenders. So you have that. And I say that they have given up 27 goals. So 27 goals against, which is tied with Dallas for the least. So they're not scoring a bunch. They're scoring 33 goals, which outside of St. Louis and Arizona is the least in the division. So not scoring a ton, but they're not giving up a lot of goals either. Yeah, man. I like I said, I know it's only one game and it was early in the season, but I thought Winnipeg looked good. And maybe it was just because they were playing the Avalanche, and we said, a lot of teams are going to get up for when they play Colorado this year. But they have skill at the top, and they have a great goalie, and they have good defense. So they might be tougher than we think for the duration of a season.
Yeah, you really want to keep an eye on them. Dallas, like when we talked about Dallas, you want to talk about if this is sustainable. What you saw in that first game against Winnipeg, and with the new head coach and the new style of play with that existing talent, it's something you want to keep an eye on if this can hold up. Because if they do, this could be an issue. This could be a problem, because they're scrappy and they're talented enough to go out there and score a couple quick goals. That's all they need.
Yeah. So, and then, towards the bottom of the division, we were always saying, Arizona is going to be down there. And some people were, myself included, were thinking like, could Chicago beat out Arizona for, the worst team in the division, potentially worst team in the league? Chicago's 5-5-2 right now, playing some inspired hockey. I think they're taking this whole us against the world mentality, and people just saying that we are going to be bottom feeders and running with it for as long as they possibly can.
Yeah.
So they're in the middle of it right now. I don't think they're going to stand there. This could be an Anaheim Ducks thing from last year, but I give them credit for not just caving and standing up to it and going out and fighting it out every night.
And winning games, and when they win, it's commanding and you respect it. You're like, okay, you're not giving up. You're not entertaining that let's tank for Bedard stuff. Like,
Yeah.
You're going out and winning those games, and you can respect it with everything that Chicago's gone through.
And then as far as St. Louis, you just throw your hands up and you're like, what happened? I don't know. Everybody was thinking this was, a lock for a playoff team, but I mean, have they just got too far back? And you hate saying that in the first week of November, where it's irreplaceable right now. Like, can they turn the tide? They've done it before, where they went from worst to winning the Stanley Cup. They were worst in the month of January. They ended up winning the Stanley Cup. Things are different, obviously. Just because you did it before doesn't mean that's an automatic. You do it again. I don't know, man. Like they got to start making some changes yesterday for them to salvage this season.
You're not going to see me shed a tear for Jordan Binnington in this implosion when they pull Jordan Binnington as many times as you pull the rope leaving Long John Silver's. Like I have zero sympathy for him, and it's about time. Like that roster, it's aging. And like you said, they might be a little bit too far behind to catch this thing up, especially with how bad Binnington has been playing.
Yeah, with how bad he's been playing, with how good the division is playing,
and how good Billy Husso is playing in Detroit.
Yeah, he is. You're right. Crazy. It's the division is just in disarray right now, and we'll see over actually the coming weeks and coming months if things kind of even out the way we thought they could go. But I don't know. As far as St. Louis, they got a long road ahead of them, and they have time. But if they don't turn it around immediately, you might have to just throw in the towel for St. Louis. And who thought we'd be saying that by the first week of November? Crazy. But what I said about St. Louis about, going from last to first and saying like, oh, well, we've done it before, we can do it again. What about the Avalanche? A lot of people want to say like, well, this is what happened last year. Does that matter? Does it matter at all? And should we stop saying that? Because this is a different season with a different team. Does it just make us feel good to say that we did it last year so we can do it again? I get it, but should we? But first, we are going to hear from Simply Safe. And you know what time of the year it is, Mr. Sullivan?
The holidays.
It's the holiday season. And I don't know if you know this, but stuff gets stolen around the holiday season, my friend. And we all like to order online. We don't want to go out anymore to the malls. We want to stay in, and we'll wait the 2 days to get the product shipped to us, and then it sits on our front step. And if we're not watching, that's not going to say guaranteed to get stolen, but burglaries and package thefts around the holiday season go up substantially. That's why our friends at Simply Safe Home Security are offering 50% off of their award-winning security system so that more families can feel safe and secure this holiday season. So order your Simply Safe system for half off today and enjoy advanced security and greater peace of mind for this holiday season. It's 24/7 professional monitoring service that costs less than $1 a day. It's less than half the price of ATD's traditional professionally installed system. And with top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. You can arm or disarm. You can unlock for a guest, access your camera, or adjust your system settings. So don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that we recommend. That's 50% off of any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedonnhl. And there's no safe like Simply Safe. All right. So the Avalanche obviously coming off of their Stanley Cup season. And when that happens, when you go into the next season, a lot of liberties are taken, mainly by like the fan base of kind of just feeling like, not that it's a given it's going to happen again, but you have kind of like some of this self-confidence that, well, they'll just automatically turn it around because they did it last year. And honestly, I think that does happen for a lot. When you win a championship, you do get some kind of like bravado about you. Like, well, we can turn this thing around. It's not just guaranteed, but you've climbed the mountain, so you feel like you can do it again. And a lot of people want to turn to the 4-5-1 start. And when the Avs were 4-4-1, they're like, well, this is what we did last year. So I get why people want to do it. It makes them feel comfortable. It makes them feel like, well, it's okay. We did that last year. This is a completely different team.
Mm-hmm.
We have the superstars and all, they're not going anywhere, but you don't win it just with the superstars. And when this was happening last year, when the Avs started off okay, I'm not going to say it was a bad start. What they were missing was top tier guys.
Yeah,
they were missing Devon Taves. They were missing Nathan MacKinnon. Yeah, this year we're missing Gabe Landeskog, but that's really it. And yeah, you've had Nichushkin out a couple games, but the depth from last year was from my recollection, pretty well intact. And you kind of were able to, just turn the tide pretty quickly. Just you had to get in the flow of a season. I think that can happen again. I think that's just the nature of the beast for the Avalanche. But what do you feel about all of this? Just comparisons to last year, and this is how it started. It's eerie. It is a little odd. That's kind of starting similar. But you just automatically say like, well, because this is how it started last year, it's just gonna be a carbon copy for this year.
It's I take it both ways. Everybody wants to point back to last year and how we started. We didn't have MacKinnon when we started last year. We had Maltsev starting games with the Avalanche.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to figure stuff out there. I understand. And this Avalanche team can figure out stuff here. But the league was different last year. We just got done telling you what the Central looks like. Who would have told you Dallas and Winnipeg would be leading the Central?
Right. Yeah.
And it's nothing you can sit back and say, well, we started off rough last year. It's November. This is where we turned it around last year. That excuse goes out the window. We just got done with a back-to-back in Finland against Columbus. We won both. We started out last year against Columbus in a semi back-to-back. It was like 2 or 3 days apart, and we lost both. So
I forgot about that, honestly.
And this Columbus team has Johnny Hockey. Last year they did not.
They didn't, yeah.
And last year that was a Maltsev Jost Leckenless team.
Right.
It's you can make the case for both seasons, and that was also Darcy Kemper's net. This is Georgiev's net. So
right, that's the point. There's a lot of changes that happen. I still feel like I don't know. Sometimes I feel like people say like, well, this is how they started last year, as it's just a given that they'll be able to replicate what they did last year because they did it last year. It's like, well, no, like you just can't assume that. Can they do it? Absolutely. Why? Because they're a good team, not because they did it last year.
Exactly.
Not because they're going to repeat what they did last year, because they have guys like Nathan MacKinnon who are going off, and you have Cale McCarr. Like you have the team that's there. So I don't know. Maybe it's just like the phrasing of it that I don't really like when it's like, well, this is what happened last year. Sure, that's what happened. And like I said, it's a coincidence that it's kind of starting out the same way, but they still got to play the games. Like look at St. Louis right now. Like we just talked about them. They're just so far behind. Like, and the Avs aren't there. The Avs are right there, and because they weathered the storm of the first month of the season and didn't just beat themselves, they'll be fine. And when you get Landeskog coming back, that's going to be a great moment. Things are progressing fine. I don't think anybody's like panicking, but I just don't want to use the excuse of, well, this is what happened last year, so it's just going to repeat itself this year. That's not guaranteed.
Yeah. If you get comfortable with that excuse, there's a fine line between saying, well, this is how we started last year if you're Tampa Bay that went to 3 Stanley Cups in a row. And then there's a difference in Montreal, who was in the Stanley Cup final, and then the worst team the next year, St. Louis, who hasn't come close to coming back to the Stanley Cup. The same for Washington. You could say, well, that's how we started out last year, and before you know it, you're wishing you had the success of last year.
It's true.
So
yeah,
you can accept it for so long, and we could say, well, this is how we started out last year. Where we're sitting right now is where things turned around. This is where the Avalanche got their swagger, and you kind of see that with how they ended that Global Games series. They have that swagger, but from here on out, you want to see night in, night out Avalanche hockey. That excuse is an October excuse. November, especially with how Dallas is that we just got done talking about. We have 2 games against Dallas in November. You can't say, well, boy, we started off rough last year. Hate that we dropped both games to Dallas. Now we're going to find ourselves in a St. Louis, Chicago. You're back of the pack, and you have games you need to have. Yeah. Last year, we had the opportunity to put ourselves in a position where we could play garbage hockey for the last 2 weeks of the regular season, and we could lose them and just say, well, hey, we're in the playoffs. We locked up this, that, and the other. You don't want to be fighting for that game 82 position with unproven lines 3 and 4.
No, and I think it's a good thing that they're playing Dallas now in this month twice, because it's not, two teams that are like trying to find their footing. It's one team that's gotten off to a hot start and they are coming for you.
Yep.
They're going to want those are 4 big points, and Dallas is going to do everything that they can to put 4 more points distance between them and the Avalanche. So you can't have that. We feel good right now because of how they played, but it was Columbus. All right. And I just want to put that into perspective here.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, it's not a high flying Dallas team that's playing right now. It's not like, look what happened against the Devils. I want to see what happens when we go against the Devils again.
Yep.
That's what I want to see. So you can't hopefully that was what turned the tide for the Avs in playing more consistently. And
Yes.
we will see that through the rest of the month of November. We will really see it when they play teams like Dallas, who maybe is overachieving right now, but they got all the confidence in the world and they are waiting for that game. I don't know what the first one, if it's in Dallas or Colorado, if you want to look that up quick, but they don't care. Dallas just wants to face you, and you have to snap out of that early season like highs and lows, because there's so many teams that have already snapped out of it. And
First one in Dallas.
Of course it is. Yeah. So that's going to be a 1-0 game. But yeah, like a lot of teams didn't even start the season with the roller coaster highs and lows of October. Dallas is one of those teams. They came out fired out of a cannon, and they can't wait to play you. So yeah, you can't have that. You got to get over that stuff now. So again, we feel good because we have 2 wins in Finland, and great. Those, every point matters. Every game, it's not easy to win games in this league. So great, you win both those games. But now let's see. Now you got to keep that going and that consistency over the course of November. So we'll see how it all plays out.
And that week that we play Dallas, you play them on Monday. You play Vancouver on Wednesday. Friday you play Nashville. Saturday, Dallas.
Okay, so you start. So Monday, it's Monday and Saturday.
Yep.
Oh, so in that the second one is the second game of back-to-back.
Yep. You play at Nashville, and then you come back to Ball Arena to play Dallas.
Well, at least the back-to-back is at home, but still, that's like
Nashville to Denver. I'm planning this in your mind now. These are the games that you prove yourself. The excuse no longer flies.
All right. It's going to be a good month. So we'll see. Yeah. And for all those that say last year it was November was when things started to go well, and they did for pretty much the rest of the year. So January, though, was really where things were awesome for the Avs. And maybe it is again this year, because that's when Gabe comes back. So maybe there is something to this whole last year, just carbon copy.
You know what?
Year.
Just
whatever, everything I just said, forget it.
Yep, just forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it.
All right. That's going to wrap it up for today, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, making this your first listen of the day. That is always appreciated. We will not be here tomorrow. Mr. Sullivan and his job, and it's election day, is going to be a busy man tomorrow for his work. So we will not be around for tomorrow to record, but we'll be back the following day and get you prepped for the game on Thursday. So that is going to be it for today. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Always appreciated. For Mr. Shaggy Von Doom, Kyle Sullivan, I am Chris Maselli. This is the Locked On Avalanche podcast, just like it was last November. Carbon copy of this year. Have a good day, everyone.